Wait. Hey, guy. What are you doing? What? Nope. 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 Hey, guy. Stop. Hey. Stop. No. What's do? Oh, where's the cord? Where's the cord? I mean, no. Welcome back to the Grayer Zone. A guy is not with us today, and a bear walked into our studio. I'm gonna try to handle the editing end today, so I'm gonna turn it over to Faye as your host.
I am your wonderful host, Faye, and right now we have Papa Bear,
Hello.
Mr. Moon, the little cryptid boy over there,
Hello.
and then who else? Darb.
And me, yeah, can't forget me. I'm your teacher, for goodness sake.
Yes.
Well-
And apparently I teach a bear too now. Whatever.
Don't worry about me.
He's-
I have rights.
He's a
Well, what
dad.
about all those bear arms? Where did those come
Yeah,
from?
I've got my right to bear arms.
As you're ripping someone to shreds.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
It was just Fez. Don't worry about
I gotta
it.
eat too, dude.
Speaking of, tearing people to shreds, today we're talking about video games and mental health and how they correlate with each other. Do video games cause violence? What do you think?
I mean, maybe. It kind of depends on the person, really. It depends upon the person, what they're playing, and what their mental state is when they go into playing it.
I very much agree with that because a person can only play Stardew Valley and yet they would go on a killing spree.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's been studies into us ever since the 90s in Mortal Kombat and the first Grand Theft Auto 3 for PlayStation. There was this whole controversy with violence in video games. I remember growing up and that question was asked, and then studies showed that not really. And now that question was recently asked again by our president with that
Thank you, Trump.
shooting that happened 3 months ago, right? It came up in the news again.
Something like that.
He said, let's look into video games.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forget what exactly happened. We did look into this, or with our limited resources of school computers and trying to get by a firewall, we found some things.
Yeah.
So what did we find?
Well, we
I-
found some positive links, some negative links to mental health.
But it really depends on the person's background with mental health anyways.
But mostly what I've only found is just a ton of rants about how it's all bad, how all these are going to turn you into a serial killer, when I so far have played video games for a good chunk of my life and I have not even felt like dropping someone yet. But that's just personally me. Again, it depends on the mind state of the person who is playing, what game they're playing, their mental health, how good their day has even been going, because it could have been going really good or really bad. We don't really know, but you could get one really good person who's just there to have a good time, or one guy who just wants to ruin your day.
Yeah. So, do you think age plays a little bit into it?
Yes and no.
Yes and no. I mean, because Mr. Moon, you've talked about how 40-year-old or 12-year-old, you've heard them both throw tantrums and cuss.
Oh, yes.
Age doesn't seem to matter on that one.
No, because there's no real consequence. For example, in certain games I play where you can do practically anything, whenever you see another player, it's a shoot-on-sight type of situation.
Mm-hmm.
And mostly it is, because they're trying to kill you too, because that's how the game works. And whenever you do, they either come back and try to do it again.
To kill us.
Okay. Or they try to surprise you, ambush you, and when that doesn't work, they either move on or they start to rage.
Yeah, so for our listeners who I think we've had 5 people view our podcast in total, and most of them are in our podcast classes.
Most
So
likely.
our viewers who are ourselves, but for our viewers who are not ourselves, so there's solo video games, but then the online video games, there's something called PvP, and then there's PvE.
Yeah, there's
So PvP is the
Player
players
versus
attacking
player.
players.
PVE is player versus like the computer versus
The computer,
yes.
or like all the other players versus computer,
Yeah,
or something
player
like
versus
that.
enemy.
So,
Yes.
there are some games that have both, some games that have one,
or the other.
one or the other. Yeah.
and then
So
there's some games that combine the two.
yeah,
Yes.
and like Dark Souls isn't it? The Souls series is kind of an example of it can be PVE, but like only if the person that joins you agrees to do it. Otherwise, it's PvP.
Yes, like when it comes to the Soul series, it really depends on the situation. Like in that game, there's something called summoning and invading. When you summon someone, they're on your side, and you let them into your world.
Yeah.
But that also draws red phantoms, which are the people who are trying to go into your world, force themselves in. The more players that you have with your side, the more likely you are to be invaded. And then when people start to complain when the person who is invading is really good, and then after they win, because they know what they're doing, and the other guy starts to rage, it kind of gives it a bad vibe, because, like, all you hear is just the constant rage and the constant
yeah.
just assault.
So let me use an elementary school analogy. So you're back in kindergarten, and you're building with blocks or something, and you got some people
Lincoln
helping
Logs.
you, and then another kid comes in and knocks your stuff over. I mean, it can happen that way, and that's how some people that play that game can take it. Others take it as it's just part of the game.
Yes, because the game is based around how your character is already, like, in a curse. He is already dead. It does not matter if you live or die.
Yeah.
In the lore of the game, characters that you come across don't care if they live or die, because to an undead, life is meaningless.
Yeah, they're dead already. Yeah.
Well, yes, because whenever they die, they just come back. And in the game, when you die, it says you die, not game over.
Yeah.
Because you're meant to die. Some things, for example, you die, and then something happens that you're only able to die.
Okay. So, Papa Bear,
Yes.
have you raged while gaming?
Oh yeah, I have definitely been a victim to some trolling by people, some trolling by AI. I've broken a controller before.
Faye, have you raged?
Yes, I have. I have raged at Spyro Reignited Trilogy with all like the hard platforms.
Mr. Moon, me personally, Souls does make me angry, but have you raged before?
Well, yeah, everyone does. It's a video game. It's the gamer experience. You rage, you move on.
All right. Son, have you raged before?
Yeah, I think after playing for a few years, it just gets to you eventually.
All right. So, we all have had a rage experience, but I think we also all agree that does not define gaming.
No.
Most certainly not.
And so I think I showed you guys that one SciShow episode, and it talked about there is a link between aggression and video games, but it's
Temporary.
Yeah,
temporary.
It's temporary.
Yeah.
It is very
And I
much so
think
temporary.
the other studies we looked at showed something similar.
Yeah.
What else do we have on aggression?
With aggression, it also depends on the game and how. Ew, words.
The silence is fine. It's okay.
I am.
When it comes to aggression, again, it depends on the person, like how personally they take it. If
Yeah.
they take it personally, they're gonna hold on to it. But it's a video game, so you shouldn't, unless it's like your friend messing with you or something like
Yeah.
that.
So like,
But if it's just some random person who's just doing what they're supposed to be doing, like if that's their job, you can't really be mad at them because it's a part of the game, and that's what they're trying to do is just play the game. You can't really get angry at someone who's just playing the game, and if you do, it's kind of stupid.
and if you do find yourself getting angry at a game a lot and you keep playing it, that's kind of on you.
Yes, that's very
like
much on you.
I play For Honor. I'm not very good at it, and I generally only play against bots simply because I have to pause, and it's one of the you can pause sometimes when you play against bots depending on the mode, because I have to stop and do things sometimes. So, and if I do play against other people, I'm going to get wrecked, and I know that. And if I do start to get upset about it, I would switch back to fighting bots or switch to a different game.
When it comes to For Honor, like level 3 bots are actually some of the most hardest things to fight.
They've nerfed them slightly. They don't perfectly parry everything now.
But
They
still,
sometimes whiff.
but still,
Yeah.
it's like when it comes to like a machine that's like perfectly tuned, and then to a person who can make mistakes, the machine's gonna win.
I'm going to rage more against a computer that's god tier than a player who's god tier.
True.
Like racing games with the whole like you get ahead and then they rubber band in front of you. That's
have-
rage inducing.
That is the exact way that I broke my first controller. It was because I was playing Mario Kart Double Dash on GameCube, and the AI for Peach just so happened that it wanted to be the most difficult AI in the entire match, and I was getting very upset.
I have a very personal hatred for Toad, all because of Mario Kart Wii.
Oh yeah, yep. Sounds about right.
I rarely ever played those games, so I don't know that feeling. But when it comes to most of my plays, it's more the dungeon crawly, or pretty much like out to survive, and then yeah, it just goes kind of downhill.
Well, and that's a genre where, for the most part, if you die, it's usually on you and not the computer being cheap. Like most of those games.
Well, yeah, it's mostly like that are just glitches
Yeah.
or bugs or something.
Unless you're
stupid
playing
like that.
Fallout 4 and the glowing Deathclaw just kind of appears out from behind you.
Yes,
and
there's
just
that too.
kinda-
I've been a victim of that.
That's
Next thing you know,
that's
it's
a
like I get hit with a
situation in
mini
and of
nuke.
itself.
It's like next thing I know, I get hit by a mini nuke, and then then apparently it's just a death claw.
Yeah.
Then I'm
Yeah.
like, how did it sneak up
like,
on me? Because
oh.
my companion should have told me something.
Exactly.
So I have a lone wanderer and I have dog meat.
So isolation, loneliness,
Depression,
Depressacito.
despair, anxiety.
Did you just try to mix depression and Despacito?
No, I was thinking like a depresso,
Oh.
like a coffee, drinking a depresso.
No, I'll
Depressacino.
I'll take one of those. Yeah, I want coffee right now. Okay, when it comes to that is all on you. If you isolate yourself, that's mostly you. If it isn't, then get out of that place if you can, and if you can't, make it so you can. But otherwise, if it's like a mental thing, get help. And if video games are helping you, then make sure they're helping, not making you more angry.
Because
or
you see,
stuff like that.
with isolation, specifically with games, it's like you'll play a game and then you'll get so wrapped up in the world of that game and in the story of that game that you'll eventually want to do just that and not anything else. So it'll downward spiral until eventually you're doing nothing but playing one game or focusing on one game franchise or something like that, and it can cause it's just overall a negative thing. However, that's not to say that all video games are bad. In fact, a lot of video games can be used to assist with improving mental health. Like, there are games that are made for that, and there are other games that are generally used to improve mental health.
Like Animal Crossing.
Animal Crossing, Stardew Valley, Minecraft even. I would even put Terraria in there to some extent.
Yes, because those are mostly building games.
Yeah, like
there is, of course,
peaceful building games or like farming
Like
simulators.
farming games, Harvest Moon.
yeah, like
Yeah,
most
Harvest
of
Moon is
those
good.
games are like there is violence, but that's more of like you're defending yourself.
Yeah, and
It's
made,
cartoony
it's made
violence
to be
also.
chill.
Yes,
as
because
well.
there is no blood, no gore. It's when you kill them, they just poof.
Yeah,
gone.
or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
It's made to be more peaceful and chill so that you can sort of relax yourself and just enjoy the game. That's what they're
Unless
made
you're
for.
in a cave on Stardew Valley and then suddenly your screen turns green and the bugs, they come out and they hoard around you.
And then you get absolutely decimated by all the bugs and you're left screaming because, God, I just dropped everything.
And also now you're in Harvey's office now. Like,
And now I don't have as much money as I had, and now I need to go make X amount of red peppers so I can replace the money that I lost from this, so I can go out and probably die in that same cave again.
Then there's Minecraft, where you're just happily mining. The next thing you know, you get blown up by a creeper.
Which those are just like surprise things that can happen to anyone at any time. And most of the time for Minecraft, with the creeper just exploding you out of nowhere, that's just a jump scare. Honestly,
It's a meme,
Kinda
but it's
scary.
true.
It's a jump scare. Like it's genuinely terrifying. I've had it happen to me before, and I've screamed at it. It's,
Like, you're listening to
yeah.
music, just building, like you're trying to make your perfect house. Next thing you know, there's a hole
Or
in the
you're
ground.
just
don't
or you're
even
just
get me started on
walking
how
through a
many
cave.
times I've screamed while like a tar slime appeared out of nowhere.
You're just walking through a cave, and then out of nowhere, just a creeper appears. You can't avoid it, or you hit it, and it doesn't go away far enough, and then you explode, and then it's just a bad situation overall.
And it's a big ouchie.
Like, the only time, I really get angry when it comes to creepers is when, they blow up and now I'm like, now I have to fix the hole. That's the most, annoying thing
yeah,
to me.
and then not all of the materials drop. And
Yeah,
see,
it's
even
really
the
annoying.
relaxing games can be frustrating, but then again, also it depends on the person playing it and the mindset of the person. If I'm having a good day and I get blown up by a creeper, then I'll probably be fine. However, if I just got home from work and I had to deal with a bunch of cranky customers and a coworker who wasn't doing what they're supposed to, if I get blown up by a creeper, then I'm probably going to get really, really angry about it simply because my experience beforehand was negative.
Yeah, that makes sense. If anything, just turn it to peaceful.
Yeah, exactly. In those situations, you turn it to peaceful and you just don't worry about them. But
But when you're mining and you fall in the lava pool,
oh, there you go. Yeah, that's the worst.
Oh,
it
yeah.
still gets you.
You
that
dig
is
down
what gets
one
you.
block and you just start burning. Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
That's happened to me before.
Kids,
I just-
don't dig down straight.
Oh, you don't dig straight down. It's a bad idea.
Don't dig.
Debatable.
They only have stone tools. Little wither spawns, you just get destroyed.
So yeah, that's what we have for isolation and improving mental health, and it's also we also have some statistics from studies that have been done over this exact topic, and video game addiction in and of itself is now counted as isn't it a mental disorder is what they're labeling it as?
Yeah, the
Something like that.
CDC has officially recognized it, I think, last year or the
As
year
like an
before.
addiction.
Something like
Yeah,
that.
As a unique addiction that's not just something else.
Like
Yeah.
gambling or alcohol.
It's almost like a gambling addiction, but
not quite.
But not to the point where you're losing money unless you're buying into microtransactions, which is its own beast.
like
That's
loot crates. Oh
That's
God.
its own personal thing that I am not going to talk about because
Yeah.
I'm not stupid enough to do that.
However, the actual statistics that we have for what video game addiction can cause is stuff it can lead to negative personality traits that can be found within younger kids, teens, young adults, stuff like that, which include stuff like low self-esteem, anxiety, aggression, like we mentioned before, depression, and even with some games, depending upon the game itself, it could even lead to paranoia. But yeah, it
Yes.
can be a serious thing. However, it can also be used to treat all of these things.
So
yeah, it just depends on the
it's-
game and pre-existing attributes that you already have.
It's like a double-edged blade. It can help, but it can also harm you. It's like a risk that you have to take, or
It's
just
like if you
not
play
do it
a
at all.
game that has your triggers in it just to trigger yourself, then don't do that.
You're hurting yourself.
there's a documentary I want to plug real quick. Came out in 2008. It's called Second Skin, and it's about video game addiction. And it goes into it follows a bunch of people. It goes into gold farming companies and a bunch of other things.
Yep.
Meh.
Follows real life people, and there's a woman who founded basically instead of Alcoholics Anonymous, she founded an online Gamers Anonymous or whatever. And she talks about how and I told you guys this story, so I'm going to tell the viewers this story, about the son who committed suicide, and his suicide note was this new character he created on that Second Life game.
Yeah.
she tells that story in the documentary, and it's pretty good. I remember watching it. It goes into video game addiction and a bunch of other things, so interesting.
Yeah, it was definitely. It's like this topic as a whole is very, very interesting, and you can get really in depth with it. However, if you look at modern media and just like general news outlets and stuff, if there's ever talk of video games, it's always over video games and violence. That's all what it's over.
Because people are trying to like make it like this is bad, children. Get away from this thing that is not harmless at all. But we're gonna make it look like it's the devil in disguise or something stupid like that. Then all the Karens who are so religious are gonna jump out and like oh, it's a holy day. And I'll stop now because he makes me want to stop. Yeah.
So, buttons.
We need to pull it back on that one just a little bit.
Yeah,
I had to do that. Sorry.
that. The
Turn it
the
up.
story
Gosh.
the story of video games being blamed for everything just reminds me of the story of Doom. So if you don't know, one of the coders on Doom, very Christian person,
Oh,
and then
I know
people were saying Doom was like worshiping the devil, and this coder who was Christian is like, it's the most Christian game out there because you're killing demons.
Yeah, that's the entire point behind Doom. You kill a bunch of demons.
You're an unnamed soldier and you crush
demons.
demon skulls.
I mean-
How is that worshiping
yeah,
him
you've
when
got,
you're
like, a bunch
killing his children?
Like, yeah, there's a bunch of there's pentagrams everywhere, blood, gore, everything that is not ideal to see for Christian eyes. However,
You're also
it's
stopping
literally
demons
just
and-
killing demons. You're going out and you are having yourself a slaughter fest against a
Yeah.
bunch of demons. You're doing the Lord's work.
by ripping things heads off.
Do video game companies, so like not just the publishers, so like let's leave EA out of this, we all know they're evil.
Yeah.
But do
No
the
comment.
actual creators, do they have a moral responsibility to maybe provide warnings or other things like that, even if it might give away the plot?
Yes, they do.
I'd say yes, simply because if
So the other day we were talking about
I think-
the one that made headlines recently, Doki Doki Literature Club,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
that
Like
one.
when it comes to moral and stuff, moral yes sometimes, but also legally they sometimes have to.
Yeah,
Because
specifically-
that or
Yeah,
they get
no,
sued.
because
They say like the seizure warning, which is now like commonplace. Like
Yeah,
almost
there's-
every
Game has a seizure warning. Yes.
Yeah.
yeah.
Stuff like that have to do that
Yeah,
otherwise.
like
they're gonna get
for
sued.
example, for those listeners who don't know what it is, Doki Doki Literature Club was a game that was released in 2017, and it follows. It is under a specific genre of game known as a visual novel and/or a dating simulator, in which you just look at a bunch of cartoon characters and you pick various dialogue options so that you interact with various characters so that you can in the end romance them and stuff like that.
you get to woo them.
However, Doki Doki Literature Club was released as a free game, and it was advertised to be exactly that. Just a visual novel, like a harmless little visual novel that you could play and whatever. However, what really set it aside from everything else is the fact that it is actually a psychological horror game. In fact, there's a warning at the beginning of the game that says if you have anxiety, depression, and X, Y, and Z, please read this first before playing this game because it involves, it's a very, very heavy game, to put it simply. There is suicides in the game. You get to see the aftermaths of the suicides, and just everything just kind of turns into this dumpster fire when originally it was like this cute, sparkly, whatever, hey, it's
Oh, hey, cute anime girls. No.
yeah, hey, cute anime girls. Oh, wait, that one killed herself.
it goes from all light to dark really fast.
Very fast. It takes a very
Undertale
sudden
is something
turn.
similar. Like if you go the genocide path.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
the genocide route on Undertale is a very good example of that too.
Because
Also, Baldi's Basics.
video games have trained you to always fight and defeat the bad guys, and if you
Yeah.
do that in Undertale, you end up with basically like, no, you destroyed everybody. There is no way back, and then there's that horrible little laugh at the end when you try to restart over.
Yeah, there's basically you just desolate this entire
Civilization.
civilization and like
'Cause-
it's multiple cities worth of creatures that you're just destroying. It's not like any other normal RPG where you go through and oh hey look monster kill it for XP. No, in this one it's you just keep killing them to get XP, but then eventually there's no more monsters to kill in an area, and when you get an encounter it'll just simply state nobody came.
Yeah, like how what they done is they made it to where like it still says like level, and it still says all that, but it's actually saying something else.
Yeah, they're like the abbreviations for
yes.
For your level it's
le-
LVL.
level of violence.
Yeah.
Something like that. And
Yeah.
the more it is, the more you can hurt and all that stuff.
And this is kind of an example of not so much of a game messing with you, but more as a game.
it's a moral.
It's a moral. Like it. So like a lot of people that don't play games don't understand that just like a very good novel or a very good movie that makes you think about human society, some games can do that too. So Undertale, it's an RPG, and in RPGs you fight and defeat things to get experience to make your character stronger. If you do that in Undertale,
You go-
it calls you to task and is like, you did it, but what was the cost?
Yeah.
Because-
Like,
God, Undertale makes me cry.
like there are just certain games that can be used as like psychological like thinking points. Like the game in and of itself is like think about what you're doing, or a game that makes you think about something. I think I haven't personally played it, but I'd say Detroit Become Human is probably one of those games.
Yes, that is
Heavy
very
Rain,
much
too.
it.
Yeah, Heavy Rain as well.
Those games
they make you
choose.
really think. Like they make you strain your brain a little bit and actually like think about what's going on.
Spec Ops: The Line is another example of that. I don't know if anyone. Basically, it's a third-person shooter, and it knows you go cover to cover, you shoot the bad guys, and then this came out in 2012 or something. So
2000
I'm
whatever.
just gonna spoil it. And then you find a mass of body heat signatures in a building in front of you. So you call in a white phosphorus. You get over there. You found out you just white phosphorus a bunch of citizens, civilians, and your crew with you is kind of like, oh, that's horrible. And then you kind of go all Colonel Kurtz in Apocalypse Now. And you're kind of all crazy, and then the army sends people after you, and you have try to fight your way out, and you don't. But it kind of
Yeah.
it tricks you into doing all that stuff that you're used to in a game, and then it's like there's a cost to what you do.
Mm-hmm.
So
Watch yourself, pretty much.
Isn't
yeah.
like the Walking Dead games the same way?
the Telltale ones, all the other Walking
Telltale
Dead games are
games-
kind of trash.
Yeah,
Like, when
well,
it-
like
like
the
the-
Telltale games as a whole, like those are things.
Darp flew away.
That was a very powerful sneeze.
I was trying to not sneeze into the mic.
You just rocketed away with that sneeze.
Yeah, but when it comes to those games, it's it's kind of like you don't have full control of your characters. It's you make dialogue decisions, and that will affect how the game goes. If
Yeah.
you go from you walk into with one character to another, to now you're fighting a horde of zombies, or you're now fighting a horde of people
It
who have
depends
guns and you have a knife.
on the like Telltale games are all around. They're literally based around the choices that you make.
Yes,
and
it
they'll
even
give
tells you.
They'll give you multiple options for like what choices you can make, and certain choices will affect the entire course of a game. Like for example, like I think in one of the first episodes of The Walking Dead as a Telltale game, there's like an option where you can save a dude or save this guy's kid. And that affects the story way later on, depending upon which thing you choose. I think, but that's that's just an example.
No, that one is regardless of who you help, the guy dies, the boy lives. Regardless, if you help the kid, you still help the kid. The guy still gets bitten. If you help the guy, he still gets bitten, and the kid gets dragged away by his father. Regardless, that does not matter. There's one where you're either saving a dude or a lady.
Yep.
Which one you choose is the one that survives. The other one dies.
Yeah.
That's
Did you
just how
save
it
the
goes.
what was it, a reporter or
Yeah.
a dude?
Someone,
Yeah,
or,
just do
someone or
things.
someone else. Person
Yeah,
A
it's-
and person B.
It's you either do that or do something else. Eventually, your main character dies. You move on, and now you're playing as a little kid that he was protecting.
Yeah.
Now she has to make these moral choices when she's still a kid, and imagine what's going through that kid's head. A lot of more stuff.
Yeah. So, anyway.
I wanted to briefly talk about. So we covered aggression already, but we kind of forgot to mention this unique phenomenon besides toxic behavior, swatting.
Ooh. Big topic.
Big topic. Something that.
Thank you, sound guy. Very cool.
Can you warn us, please?
Yeah. So
Thank you, Kanye. Very cool.
buttons.
Thank you, Kanye.
I was
Very
scared.
Swatting is when you are mad at someone online. You basically find out their ISP address, find out their town, find out their physical address, and then you call SWAT on them. So the first reported case of swatting, I think, was like 2012 or something like that.
Something. It's still
Something
there.
like that, I want to say, yeah.
And if you look into this, one of the first ones you will come across is this young girl of like 7.
Ayanna Jones?
Ayanna Jones.
She died.
Yeah, so SWAT was called on her. She was 7. I don't know what she was playing. And basically SWAT busted into her house and shot her. So the story goes, her little brother was like sitting on the couch next to her or something. So
Yeah, we don't have the full details. All we know is she died, and I believe the guy who called SWAT got arrested.
yeah,
Yes.
Yeah, he got, and then there was another one that happened
in April last year.
Yeah, April of last year.
And then the same person involved in that one, so like the person who called SWAT, or at least got the ISP address to call SWAT, same person was also involved in another one that also had a shooting.
Yeah, in December 2017.
Yeah. And
it
in
was
both of those, the shooting was fatal.
Yeah, both
Yes.
both Shane Gaskill and Andrew Finch were sadly killed through these swatting things, and Tyler Barris is the person who actually called these swatting events. I don't remember the full stories, but basically he was playing some Call of Duty game with Gaskill and Finch at separate occasions, but he got angry, and so he swatted them, and in both situations it was fatal.
And remember, this is not the game that's doing this. It is the person.
Yeah, so this has nothing to do with PvE, PvP. This is like literal.
This
person
is
himself.
literally person versus person.
This is literally someone being so
Angry and so
Angry.
upset to actually physically do something with it.
yeah. I mean, throwing a controller is one thing, cussing someone out over headsets one thing, but this is an entirely different thing.
Yeah,
that-
its
it's
own
risking
beast.
somebody's life.
Because you are not physically hurting them, but you are physically doing something that's going to get them hurt or
You're putting them in
scare
danger.
them or have a gun put to their face because you don't know what's going to happen.
And that could leave serious mental scarring.
Yes,
Trauma.
that could ruin someone's life.
Yeah.
Yeah, a schizophrenic, for example, that will make them freak out, and that could get them shot, or they
Yeah.
could accidentally shoot if they had a gun. We don't know. Only time will tell.
But aren't there like big cities that are like taking precautions against this? Like
Yeah.
Yes, and
streamers.
I know for a fact Seattle is doing this, and I think I also saw that New York was doing this. But big time streamers or just anyone who feels like they could be targeted by a SWAT attack can actually go to the Seattle Police Department, and I think the same applies for New York as well. They can go there, and they can basically be put onto a list that says, "Hey, I live here. My name is this. If I get a SWAT call against me, it is probably fake because I am a celebrity and or streamer or something along those lines, and it helps to prevent swatting attacks from happening."
And now some cities are also putting something else into effect. Whereas if you do SWAT someone, you pay
You
for
have to pay for the
you
SWAT
pay
team.
for the SWAT team's wages for
And
however long you're deployed.
The price for it varies, but I think it's somewhere between $1,000 to $2,000 an hour.
That rate's from Austin, Texas, I believe. So it might be more in a, like, say, in a, I'm putting this in quotes because it's probably all we hear is the bad stuff, so I have no idea how accurate it is, but, like, you know, SWAT in Detroit, their rate might be higher simply because there's supposedly, it's worse there, just gang-wise.
Yeah,
Versus, you know, SWAT in, say,
Some small town.
Nebraska town or something, you
Yeah.
know, they might not get paid as much.
Again, we don't know. This is all speculation. But
Basically, if you live in Wyoming, then it's probably not going to cost you that much.
yes, we still don't know all the information, so we're kind of guessing, but we could be right or wrong. Maybe something else is happening. We are not fully sure, but only time will tell.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else we need to talk about?
To wrap this up, I think Faye has said this best so far. Video games is a coping mechanism, so why don't you...
Video games is very much a coping mechanism. Like any other coping mechanism, you could either use that coping mechanism for good or bad. Like if you pick up a bad coping mechanism, it might help you out at first, but later on in the run, it could only hurt you more.
Yeah, like if you have a negative coping mechanism, like say, for example, you as a way of coping, you start to like eat something to make yourself feel better. That could lead to an eating disorder.
Oh, yes.
That could lead to a very bad eating disorder. Or, for example, if you use video games as your only means of a coping mechanism, you could potentially make it so that you're just constantly isolating yourself from all of your problems and just doing nothing but sitting in your room playing video games.
And humans need other human interaction.
And frankly, a lot of people who have that bit of isolation, it's only physical isolation. Generally, those people are playing like multiplayer games or
Could be.
Or
They could be.
They could be using some kind of like big chat thing. Like for example, Discord is an excellent example, which I have firsthand experience with that. Like people will use Discord and they'll use that to keep in touch with a few people, but they'll generally keep themselves alone to the people who are actually there in front of them, and they'll resign themselves to only talking to online friends, and it all just can downward spiral. Just it can be positive, but it can also be negative, just like any other coping mechanism.
Yeah. Isolation is one of those things that it builds upon itself. Like,
Yeah.
you don't reach out because you don't want people to feel sorry for you or something, and then because you don't reach out, people stop trying. Because people stop trying, you feel like no one wants to be with you.
Yeah.
And it just goes downhill from there.
And it just goes downhill there from there. So,
Well, wait to hit close to home.
I know you guys said you were gonna close it, and then you're like, oh no, we're gonna talk some more.
well, that was us wrapping
that-
it up, Blondie.
That,
Yeah.
that was the closing.
We were tying it up.
tying it up in a knot.
We were tying it up with my statement.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the coping mechanism thing is a little bow that we wrap the whole thing in.
Merry
So
Christmas.
games can
I
be
hope your tree
good, they
burns
can be
down.
bad, just like anything. And this is Darb.
I'm just a bear, dude.
He's Papa Bear, and I'm Faye.
Mr. Moon.
And Son has disappeared.
Sean.
He's just gone.
Son
he's a
is
cryptid.
gone.
Yeah, you're right. He probably
Probably hiding somewhere.
just
He
vanished
probably
into the
lost
smoke.
his little fidget ball.
Yeah, his little orb is. I think it rolled away. a little bit
Ah.
now.
Well, be that as it may, thank you for listening to us. This was the Grayer Zone, and we will catch you next time.